Alright, it's been a really rough 2 weeks for UFC fans, but this weekend we have a very intriguing card with UFC 291, which takes place in Salt Lake City, Utah. One thing that's missing from this one is the usual array of title fights we usually get on pay-per-view cards. However, most of the divisions have had defenses, and with one pay-per-view card on average a month, we can't always expect that. There are some important fights taking place, and it is not all about belts at the end of the day. The fact that this card is taking place at such high altitude makes it so much harder to predict, as I'm going to get into now, but could potentially make it a lot more fun to watch. We only have 12 fights on this card, so we're going to get right into it. The odds on this one make zero fucking sense to me. Miranda Maverick in her last performance really displayed a massive lack of IQ, and seeing her here as a minus 350 favorite against someone as game as Cachoiera is straight up retarded. She got out-hustled by Jasuda Various, and while she showed heart, she could not take on board what her corner were telling her to do between rounds. Like, you could visibly see them getting frustrated with her, and she just refused to play a striking game, and instead just relentlessly went for takedowns that were going nowhere. Now we're fighting at altitude, and we're expected to trust her to do the same, to not do the same dumb shit against someone as game as Priscilla. Less of that. She could go out there and dominate, it's possible. We just don't know with her. She pretty much epitomizes what is fucked up and frustrating about women's MMA. To the eye, she's more skilled, but I don't bet on stupid people, and this woman is a moron. I think this will be fairly back and forth all fight, and I'm very confident that it goes over 2.5 rounds. Any other play makes zero sense to me, especially at odds this ridiculous. When I saw this fight was booked, I was baffled, as I have been with a lot of UFC decisions lately in terms of matchmaking. Medic has never fought at welterweight in the UFC, and it's not like he was getting pumped at lightweight. Why is this fight even happening? The Jedi can be a little bit inconsistent, which is concerning. Like, he starches Jake Matthews like he's nothing, and then loses a close fight to Wells, who I don't really see as good. Some thought he did win that fight, and there was a fair case for it, but it's still a concerning loss. One thing I can say about Semelsburger is that he's willing to go out on his shield and really go for it. He's powerful, he usually finds his opponent's chin, and his takedown defense is pretty good. Against a guy that's going to be naturally smaller, I think this is going to pay off here. I think he's going to catch and hurt Medic at some point. I'm not going to put this one on my ticket because I can't really slight Medic entirely at welterweight. We don't know how the jump up is going to affect him. Common sense though makes me think Matthew will have 2 rounds of the game and should get this one done. I'd place no bets and just enjoy the fight for what it is. CJ Vergara is very tough and can crack, and really showed massive heart in a comeback win against Daniel Da Silva, who really had him on skates in that fight. I thought Vergara was fucking cooked multiple times in that fight. The loss to Tyra before that was not great, especially in what we've seen from Tyra and his inadequacies on the feet in his last few. And that loss is a little bit of a worry, but Tyra is decent, and it's not like those holes were glaring at the time. On the other hand, Salvador just got kind of spanked by Victor Altamirano, and I just think CJ's better than that guy. Bad MMA math is in play again here, but I have to go for the guy that is willing to go for it. Similar in a way than what I feel about Semelsburger. He won't coast if he's losing, he will go for it, and I'll take the loss for a guy that's willing to dig in and do that. This is a tough fight to predict, but I'm going to take CJ, who has bigger balls. Again, this should be a no-brainer, but it comes with concerns. The odds are so unappealing again. Jake Matthews on his day is an absolute nightmare. A really powerful striker that has developed excellent accuracy in this area. His stand-up in his earlier fights did not look that crisp, but he really surprised me when he matched up against Fialho. And he looked very impressive in that win. But the thing is, that win hasn't really aged very well, because Fialho's looked pretty terrible since then. He then went out and laid an egg against Semelsburger, who pretty much beat him up. So again, another inconsistent guy. Flowers is taking this on short notice though, and I think just based on that and the fact that the altitude favors the man that has had a camp and was preparing for a decent opponent, I'm going to have to take Matthew. I think Flowers is going to blow his load in the first, going for a finish, and then gets beaten up and finished in the second. Fight again makes no sense, but it's short notice, so I guess it's marginally better than nothing. I do like Ribeiro, he is very dangerous, but I just think Kopylov is looking another level these days. He's really impressed me. He's got excellent strike and defense, and cardio-wise, again, not to beat the drum too often, but I think the altitude is going to favor him against Ribeiro. I'm expecting a tentative first round where the danger is there for both men, but as they both kind of download the data and get more comfortable, I'm expecting Kopylov to start finding the chin more, wear him down, and then find a finish in the second. I really like the under 2.5 here. I think that's quite tempting, and the odds are pretty favorable if you're looking to parlay up. I was really tempted to go crazy and pick Lewis here, but I'm going to take Rogerio to just out-fat Lewis here. De Lima has really massive leg kicks, and I think that's going to be very telling in this one. It's something that really stood out to me watching his last few fights. Lewis is far more tentative recently and has been pretty badly starched in his last 3. And while of course he could catch De Lima and badly hurt him, you always have that wild card with Lewis. I just think he's kind of collecting checks now and has lost all his confidence. I think De Lima's going to punish his legs, soften him up, then they're going to end up in a takedown situation, and then De Lima's going to lay on top of him and gas him out. I think a rear naked choke on the ground is the most likely result. Lewis has horrendous cardio, and the decision to fight in somewhere like Utah is just fucking dumb. He's here to get paid, and I think he's going to hope he lands a Hail Mary. I just don't think he has it in him anymore. I'm picking De Lima to win by second round sub. Alright, I'm going to go with Bonfim in this one. A lot of people are saying his brother got fraud checked in his last one against St. Denis, but I think he just totally underestimated him and felt too invincible going in there and just got hurt to the body and faded. His brother is the younger, bigger man, but he is so well-rounded, and I think he's going to learn from his brother's mistakes and put in a professional performance rather than killing everyone's parlays by fucking clowning around. Giles is not a bad fighter at all. He is kind of the definition of a jack of all trades at this weight class, and I don't even mean that he's terrible at everything. I just don't think he's particularly exceptional. And if Bonfim goes in there and doesn't play about, he should have the skills to take the fight wherever he wants it to go. I think Bonfim is going to finish Giles. I'm going to say the second round. Giles is not a bum, and I think this to sneak over to 1.5 is another tempting play. Yeah, I don't like this one. This one feels like a trap. Chiesa is a horrific striker and will obviously look to snatch a leg, get a takedown, work on the ground. Holland is quite underrated down there though, and his ability to scramble has shown vast improvements in his overall game despite some losses down on the ground. This could be a frustrating one for Holland fans if Chiesa does get him down, as he could just lay on him and drain him. I am picking Holland though despite this risk, purely because I loathe the kind of style that Chiesa brings and really badly want to see him get smashed. Holland is very likable, but he's so fucking dumb at times, and that does give him some issues. In the Thompson fight, for example, he had him down in the first and just let him up just to prove a point. I won't be surprised if he loses in a boring manner and makes a dumb decision along the way. Watching Chiesa is just coma-inducing, and I think it's far better for everyone if he gets knocked out brutally. Seeing Ferguson in a matchup like this is just depressing, man. I've tried to build myself up to pick him all week out of nostalgia and hope, but I can't help but cast my mind back to his fight with Diaz, where they looked like pensioners in there. Like, it was a horrible fight. They both looked like they didn't have a fucking clue what they were doing, and I know the fight was at welterweight, which is not Tony's natural weight class, but he looked visibly destroyed in there. Like, he looked older, he looked weaker, he looked slower. And even though Green has looked very underwhelming in his last 2, he does have a very counter-centric style, and I think that's going to really work against Ferguson, who despite being washed, is still game as fuck. I think this is going to go to 3 rounds, so my official pick is the plus 2.5, but I have a feeling that Green's going to win this by unanimous decision, just by landing counter blows at the right times that get the judges' attention over 3 rounds. Would be great to see Ferguson do well, and I think the move back down to lightweight is better for him, but the style matchup here is not great, and Ferguson just looks absolutely cooked. Yeah, official pick over 2.5, but I think Green might edge it on the scorecards. Alright, if Pereira wasn't extremely dumb, I'd pick him here. And I do say this out of love. Is he as wild and reckless and crazy as he used to be? Not even close. I honestly think if he grabbed Thompson, took him down, he wins this fight pretty easily. But the problem is, he's not going to do that. He's going to trade strikes with a man that is really elusive and strikes from bizarre angles. And again, not to sound like a broken record, but the altitude is really going to play a factor here. Thompson does not waste energy in there, and Pereira simply does. I hope he does use his striking to get Thompson's respect, and then closes the distance and dunks him down on his back, and then dominates on top. He really could get an easy win this way. Again, I'm not going to be playing this because I do see routes to victory for both men. I just think that Thompson is more likely to point fight him, and Pereira plays his game rather than taking the easiest path to victory. Alright, I've actually put Alex in my parlay for this fight on the money line, and I don't even mean this as a disrespect to Jan, who I think is a very dangerous and well-rounded fighter. Blachowicz has really nasty leg kicks, but Alex checks them really well and is elusive, and I just think that Jan needs that distant striking strategy to wear opponents down and take their power away. Alex is just a massive guy that is elite at striking and has been in far less wars than Jan has. I think that's important to note. He is 4 years younger, but in terms of the damage, they might as well be 10 years apart. Now, Alex did have a really long kickboxing career, but he was mostly the hammer in those fights. And I think with a light heavyweight frame being more natural for his body type, I think he's going to look more filled out in there. I think he's going to be stronger. And I think when he hits Jan, he's going to hurt him. He's constantly working on his takedown defense with Glover in the background. And I think we're going to see that improve as well in this fight. Now, I do think the plus 1.5 is sneaky nice, as I do think Jan is durable. But I think he's eventually going to get caught and badly KO'd. This is a risky one, but the division badly needs a Pereira win here. Alright, this is the main event of the evening, and yeah, this is a risky as fuck one, because Dustin, despite getting the victory against Gaethje last time out, has really had to dig it out in his last few. But I am going to pick him for one simple reason. He tends to grow more and more dangerous as fights go on, and Justin for me is kind of the opposite. Justin is a much smarter fighter now, and not as reckless, but I just think Poirier is the more precise striker, and I think he's going to do the counting damage here. If Justin plays the leg kick game and doesn't get into a sloppy firefight, he could win this, but given the circumstances and expectations of the fans for this to be a barn burner, I think he's going to abandon the patient game he sets out early that has seen him show great improvement, and he's going to end up getting into a wary scrap with Poirier. I like the plus 3.5 on this, and that is my official pick, but I just think that Poirier has the grit and will build on as the fight goes on. I do think he will have to potentially come back from getting hurt, and I trust him to do that better than Justin, despite the fact that he does live and train in that altitude. This is a really worthy main event and guaranteed to be fun outside a freak injury. I hope we all haven't jinxed it. Alright, so I'm coming in with a record of 193.94, which gives me a win percentage of about 67%. Very respectable for the year. I'm really looking forward to this card. I think it's going to be great. I've been bitching and moaning over the last two. Didn't enjoy them particularly, but I think this one should deliver. And despite there only being 12 fights, hopefully we won't have any pullouts and it will go down as expected. Thanks to everyone who's been tuning in. It really means a lot to me. If you could like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, that would be brilliant. A few comments would be nice to get things going as well. But yeah, thanks for your time, and I look forward to breaking this one down on Saturday. Have a great one.